Yo, how's it going? I'm back from the video, and today I'm going to be doing an official mock draft of the 2022 NBA draft coming up. As everybody knows, the draft lottery just happened just a few days ago, and I've been doing these mock drafts around draft time for about 3 years now, and I feel like I've been fairly okay at them, and these are some of my favorite videos to make as they take the most effort. You have to go through all the players, and it's just a very interesting video to research on and then overall make the video, and I love making these videos, and they are by far my favorite types of videos, so I hope you like it and enjoy it as well. If you enjoy the video, hit the like button, subscribe button, that would mean the absolute world to me. But without further ado, without rambling on too much, let's get right into this video. And now with the number 1 overall pick, we have the Orlando Magic selecting Paolo Bonkero. Now, Paolo, in my opinion, is the best player in this draft class. Now, he is a very close player, in my opinion, with the 2nd overall pick in this class. But in my opinion, Paolo is just barely above him, and I think he's just the most all-around best player. He has a great build, great athleticism, and I think he could just be an easy franchise player for anyone he plays for. He has great two-way potential. He can handle the ball good. He just does everything you want your franchise small forward to do. Now, I know the Orlando Magic already have very good wings like Franz Wagner, Okeke, and even Jonathan Isaac if he is healthy, but you cannot pass up on someone like Paolo because you have those players. Franz Wagner had a great rookie season, but he's never going to be as good as Paolo is going to be, and you just cannot pass that up. And then on top of that, there's not really a guard in this class that you would want, but Orlando also just does not need a guard at all. Now, I could also see them going Chet Holmgren here, but in my opinion, I think Paolo is just the better player, and if I was the GM of the Orlando Magic, I would go with Paolo Bonkero. And now moving to the 2nd overall pick with the Oklahoma City Thunder, we have them selecting another small forward in Jabari Smith. Now, I know I said I have Jabari Smith under Paolo, and I do think Paolo is the better player, but it is by the slightest of margins. Like, both of these players, either one could be better than the other. Like, it is extremely razor thin close. Like, Jabari Smith could easily be the better player out of the two. I just personally think Paolo is going to end up being better, but Jabari is more than capable of being an all-star to superstar level player in this league. He has great length. He can shoot the ball from everywhere. He can score from everywhere. He's a great defender. He can pretty much do everything you want. He can switch on anyone you want, and he just has all of the tools to become an elite franchise level player. And with how the Thunder are built, with players like Josh Giddey, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Luguentz Dort, and those type of players, I think he could be a great fit with them, because Josh Giddey is an elite passer, one of the best passers in the NBA, and he is only a rookie going into his sophomore season. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is an absolute bucket, but the problem is Josh Giddey isn't the best scorer yet, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander isn't the best playmaker. Now you're getting Jabari Smith, who's going to take a lot of the offensive load off of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Teams aren't going to be able to focus on Josh Giddey more, so he's going to be able to facilitate the offense better, and overall, I think Jabari Smith is going to help this team a ton going into the future, and I think overall, Smith would be a huge addition to this Oklahoma City Thunder team. And for the 3rd overall pick with the Houston Rockets, I have them selecting Chet Holmgren from Gonzaga. Now, Chet Holmgren, I really honestly don't know what to think of him, because if Chet hits his unbelievably real ceiling, he could be the best player in this class, and he can make a lot of people look really stupid. But if he doesn't hit that ceiling, and that's a very real chance that he doesn't work out in the NBA, he could be a bust. So he could either be the best player, superstar level player in this class, or he could be an absolute bust in this class. Like, there is almost no in between with Chet, and it's just so dangerous to pick him. Like, honestly, the only reason I have him for sure going number 3 to Houston is because I think he would fit perfectly with the Houston Rockets, and I think that would give them the best chance to develop. Because Houston is not going to be better no matter who they draft next year. At least they're not going to be a playoff level team or anything special. So he's going to get opportunity and a lot of time to develop and play and get a lot of NBA minutes going into next season. And I think with Jalen Green being an elite scorer that he showed that he could be in the 2nd half of that season, I think Jalen Green's going to have a whole season like that next season, and he's going to be the main offensive guy, and someone like Chet can take on a secondary role and really focus on his development. And I think fitting alongside someone like Christian Wood, who would probably move to power forward, could be a great combination, because we already seen that type of thing work with the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cleveland Cavaliers had an experiment where they started Jarrett Allen, Larry Markkinen, and Evan Mobley. Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley mainly being two very big guys, but they're very versatile. They can do many things as a big man, and it worked to great effectiveness when they were healthy. So if Chet and Christian Wood can kind of do the same thing and let Jalen Green be that elite guard, and they can kind of replicate what Cleveland is trying to do, and maybe even do it better if Chet is able to hit that ceiling. The only problem is Chet is like one of those players that is a huge project. He has to develop, he has to get better at shooting. He has so many tools, but a lot of his tools are very, very kind of raw. Like, he has the potential to be a great ball handler, great shooter, great passer, great things like that, but he needs still to develop those skills a ton until he does hit that ceiling. So he's one of those, either hit a grand slam with him or you strike out every time with him. There's almost no in between with Chet, and in my opinion, it is going to be a very dangerous pick, but that would be a very high risk pick with a very high reward as well. So with the number 3 overall pick, I have the Houston Rockets going with Chet Holmgren. And now moving on to the 4th overall pick, we have the Sacramento Kings selecting Keegan Murray. Now, Keegan Murray, in my opinion, is another star-level player in this draft. He is an elite 3-level scorer. He has an elite 2-way potential. At worst, he's a high-level 3-and-D player. At his absolute bottom, that is what he is. That's what he's coming into the league as. And at his best, he's an all-star level small forward who can score with the best of them, can facilitate, can do everything you want your small forward to do, and I think would be a great addition to go alongside their kind of foundation that the Kings have, which is De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, and Davion Mitchell. Now, the biggest reason I have them selecting Keegan Murray here and not someone like Jaden Ivy is because if the Kings select another young guard, this franchise is going to riot. Their fan base is going to just like blow up in flames. They've selected Fox, Davion Mitchell, and Tyrese Halliburton in 3 straight drafts. Not 3 straight drafts, but 3 very, very close to each other drafts. So, I mean, with that being said, like, they do not need another young guard. They already had to trade one of their high potential young guards away because they caused such a logjam. So now they went with Davion Mitchell, who had a very solid rookie season. I liked him in last year's draft, and he looked very, very solid. And him and Fox could very well be a future backcourt for years to come. Now they need to build around them and Sabonis, and I think Keegan Murray would be a great addition to that. He would probably day one be their starting small forward, if not midway through the season, because Harrison Barnes is a solid player. He could start over Harrison Barnes as well, and I think overall that Keegan Murray could be an absolute beast and be the future for them at that small forward position. And I mean, at that point, you have De'Aaron Fox, who's still developing. Sabonis isn't that old yet. Davion Mitchell is a rookie, and then you get Keegan Murray, who will be coming in as a rookie. That's 3 really very young guys who have very high ceilings, who are still developing and are going to look very, very good going into the class. And Keegan Murray, in my opinion, is a fairly safe pick. You know what you're getting from him, and you could be getting an all-star level player as well. And with the 4th overall pick, you can't ask for much more than that. And for the 5th overall pick with the Detroit Pistons, I have them selecting Jaden Ivy. Now, the reason I have them selecting Jaden Ivy is, 1, because he is by far the best point guard in this class. Not even close, the best point guard in this class. There's not many good point guards at this high of a level. Jaden Ivy, not even close, best point guard, and that is exactly what the Detroit Pistons needs, because with Killian Hayes not working out to this point, yes, Hayes is a very solid defender, and he's looking like he's going to be more of a rotational guy than a starter ever, and Killian Hayes did look better off the bench this season, but he is just not the long-term answer at that point guard position, and they need to get another future guard. And that is exactly what Jaden Ivy would be for them. In my opinion, Jaden Ivy is going to be an absolute beast, not from day one probably, but he will be a beast developing. He might come on in the second half more than he would in the beginning of the season, but in the end, I think Jaden Ivy is going to be a very, very solid player, because the biggest thing with him going into this season, college season, was that his efficiencies were not very good in his freshman year. But in his sophomore season with Purdue, he developed a ton. His efficiency skyrocketed. He was a much better player, and I think for sure Jaden Ivy more than deserves to be selected here at the 5th overall pick. He is going to be a very long-term solution at this point guard position, and him and Cade Cunningham could be a very good duo, because Cade Cunningham is a very solid passer, very solid, just smart overall player, and just an overall very good player who's going to be a great scorer as well, and he's going to be able to do everything. And then you're going to have Jaden Ivy, who's going to be an absolute bucket at the point guard position and take some of that pressure off of Cade Cunningham. And then that's going to make players like Sadiq Bey, Jeremy Grant, even their jobs that much easier. And now Killian Hayes is going to be in his more comfortable spot, which is coming off the bench as a rotational guy, being a lockdown defender off their bench, and that is going to be a very solid position for him as well. And I think overall Jaden Ivy would fit this team perfectly for how they're currently built and how their future is looking going into the future. And now looking forward to the 6th overall pick, I have the Indiana Pacers selecting Shadyon Sharp. Now Shadyon Sharp, if he played in college and if he was in next year's draft class where he was originally supposed to be, he easily would be #1 overall potential. But due to his not seeing him and that lack of experience in college is the only reason he is not a top 5, top 3, and maybe even the #1 overall pick. As in high school, he showed you everything you wanted to see. He could shoot from range, he could handle the ball good, he was confident, his athleticism's already elite, his ball handling's good, and everything you just wanted to see, he is there. The only problem is he never played a college or even G League minute due to his reclassification last season. So with that being said, the only reason Shadyon is even at the 6th overall pick is because he hasn't played in college. Now this could be a huge upgrade, like a steal for the Pacers, because if Shadyon Sharp does hit his potential and hit his stealing that I think he could have, this could be the best player in this class. Shadyon Sharp has all the tools to do it, and now he might be a little young and might be a little inexperienced, so his first year could be a little rough, but as he goes on in the NBA and develops, he could easily become one of the best players in this class, if not the best player in this class, and they could be getting the steal of the draft and the steal in years with Shadyon Sharp here, if he does end up becoming that #1 overall pick potential that he would have had next year if he would have played in college. So I think for sure Shadyon Sharp is more than worth the risk here, because even if he doesn't work out, you're still getting a very solid player. But if he does work out, you could be getting a potential superstar with the 6th overall pick, which is very hard to do in most drafts. So I think for sure this is great value for the Pacers, and they would more than love to take him, because also they need a small forward on this class. Now I know they have Buddy Hield, but if you can get someone like Shadyon Sharp, you take him with the 6th overall pick. And now with the 7th overall pick, I have the Portland Trailblazers selecting Benedict Matherin. Now, in my opinion, I love Benedict Matherin. I think he is going to be a very good player. The worst thing you're getting in him is a 3-and-D player, which is something every team likes to have. That's what his his floor is to me, that he is going to be a just 3-and-D level player. But at his ceiling, he could be an all-star level small forward who plays very good, has great length, can play good two-way ball, he can handle the ball very well, shoot the ball very well, his three-point percentage is very good, and his three-point shot in general is very good. His problems are that he gets a little over aggressive and that he has a little bit of undisciplined kind of tendencies, but all of that can be out coached to you, and he has nothing that he has in his game that can't be coached on. Like his discipline, that can be coached out of him. His bad shot selection, sometimes that can be taken out of him, but even that bad shot selection isn't too concerning. And then another thing is that he's not the best finisher in contact. Now he's a great dunker, great athlete, but when he's not dunking, he does struggle to finish around the rim a little bit, but that can also be over time. He can get more confident when doing that, and he can get better at that as well. And another thing, he needs to add a little bit of a pull-up game from mid-range as well, but even that you can coach on and develop. So I think for sure someone like Benedict has all the tools to be as good as anyone in this class. Now he doesn't have probably the it factor that some of them does, but Benedict is definitely a very solid player who could easily reach an all-star level in just a few years in the NBA. And I think for sure anyone that gets him would be getting a very nice player with Benedict, no matter if he develops or not. And I think Portland would be getting themselves an absolute baller, and it would be getting a great second option for that scoring alongside Damian Lillard going the next season, assuming they don't trade the pick, which there is already rumors to have potential to be. Now going to the 8th overall pick, my New Orleans Pelicans. I have them selecting Johnny Davis. Now, Johnny Davis, although isn't, in my opinion, probably going to ever be an all-star, I think could be still a great two-way guard. He's 6'5" shooting guard, and immediately would be an upgrade over Devontae Graham. And with the Pelicans, they're kind of in a unique situation where they do need to kind of look at their roster, and they need to be very careful, because they have great chemistry with it. All their players get along, but there is still some upgrades. Like Devontae Graham is the glaring one that you can still upgrade over him and get a better backup guard that can score off the bench, and that is exactly what Johnny Davis could provide. He's a very solid guard, kind of lengthy, he can dribble very good, he's a solid defender, he can just do a lot of things very well, and I think Johnny Davis would be a great player off the bench for the Pelicans. He would be a great scorer for them, and I think Johnny Davis at his peak could be a very good starting shooting guard in this NBA, especially very early on his career if he does get the right opportunities at the right times, but at worst, in his first few years, he might be a little bit of a backup rotational guy at the very high end of the rotation. And going to the 9th overall pick, we have the San Antonio Spurs selecting Jalen Duran. Now, Jalen Duran is one of those freak athlete centers who's a great rim protector and can grab rebounds at a very high level. Now, although his offense does have a very long way until it is even close to being NBA ready, his defense, rebounding, and just athleticism is more than already there when it comes to NBA ready. So he's not really going to have to bear any offensive load, especially if you look at the starting lineup he would be joining. Their current starting lineup would be Devontae Murray, Primo, Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, and then Jalen Duran, assuming he would start over Jakob Poeltl, which actually isn't guaranteed at all because Jakob Poeltl is a very solid center, but I do think Jalen Duran would end up getting to start over him eventually throughout the season. And that is a very young lineup. Primo is a rookie this year. Devontae Murray is a very solid point guard, and he is one of the more underrated guys. Devin Vassell just had a much improved sophomore season. He looked very good. His potential is getting fulfilled, and if he keeps developing, could be an extremely solid small forward for the Spurs team going forward. Keldon Johnson, another one of those very underrated guys in this league. He's very solid, and Jalen Duran can just play his role, be a great rim protector, rebounder, and just play his role as a defending, rebounding, athletic guy and not try to do too much on the offensive end. He could fit with this team perfectly, and he would fit with that timeline, and I think overall the Spurs could be setting themselves up for a very bright future, because if Primo can develop, if Vassell keeps developing, Keldon Johnson keeps developing, and Murray just stays at this borderline all-star level he's been playing, and Jalen Duran can just be an average to slightly above average center going into the NBA, this Spurs team has an extremely bright future going ahead of them. And now for the first pick in double digits, we have the Washington Wizards with the 10th overall pick selecting AJ Griffin. Now, AJ Griffin, in my opinion, is going to be a very solid high-end role player. Like, he's one of those guys you can just envision him being very solid, and his comparison to me is Desmond Bane, a more athletic Desmond Bane by that. And by the way, that's not a diss. Like, that is a very solid player to get the 10th overall pick, a more athletic Desmond Bane. And AJ Griffin, in my opinion, is that. He's kind of a stocky guy, very strong build, he's very athletic, he's about the same height, he's at 6'6", Desmond Bane 6'5". They're both forwards, and both can shoot the ball very well, and in college, they both shot 40+% from the three-point line. They both play very solid, and AJ Griffin is also a freak athlete. So in my opinion, AJ Griffin could be a very high-end role player, and when I say that, people take that as a diss, but in no way is it a diss. With the 10th overall pick, you're not looking for exactly star talent. Now, if you get one, that is very good, but you're looking for more of a high-end role player at this point, and that is exactly what I think AJ Griffin could give you, with a little bit of upside as well, due to his athleticism, maybe his somewhat playmaking ability that he did show in when he was with Kentucky. Now, it was a very small sample size, but in my opinion, in a few years, AJ Griffin is going to be a more athletic Desmond Bane, which is a great pick with the 10th overall pick for the Washington Wizards. And now with the 11th overall pick, I have the New York Knicks selecting point guard Tai Tai Washington. Now, Tai Tai Washington, in my opinion, has almost no star potential at all, but like I said, at this point, you're drafting role players, or at least high-end role players with some upside. And Tai Tai Washington, in my opinion, would fit this team almost perfectly, as currently their current starting point guard is Alec Burks. Now, Alec Burks isn't a bad player, but he's not a point guard. He's not. Why the hell they have his 6'6" ass running point guard, I don't know. But Tai Tai Washington could immediately go into that starting point guard role, and he wouldn't try to score, and he wouldn't try to do too much, as he is a pass-first, facilitating, defensive-minded point guard who can also kind of score the ball. So in my opinion, Tai Tai Washington would be a perfect fit here for the New York Knicks, and that he would just fit into this system very well, and would fulfill a need that they desperately do need, and they need to give up on this big man point guard that they've been trying to do for a few years now. And Tai Tai could just be that solid guy who can hold it down until maybe a few years down the line they get a star level guy in free agency, or they once again are in the lottery and there's a star level point guard in the draft class that can replace Tai Tai. But until then, I think Tai Tai would be a more than capable starting level point guard from day one going into his rookie season, and I think that could be very beneficial for a team like the New York Knicks, who really have a lack of a true point guard on their roster. Now, with the 12th overall pick, the Oklahoma City Thunder, with their second lottery pick, I have them selecting Kendall Brown. Now, Kendall Brown is probably going to be a somewhat controversial pick right here. And in my opinion, I've seen almost no one agree with me on this take, and it's kind of concerning, but I just can't see it. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I don't care. I cannot say it. And the only reason I think it's controversial, because if you keep up with the draft like I do, everyone has Jeremy Sochan above Kendall Brown. But in my opinion, Kendall Brown is literally just the more athletic version of Jeremy Sochan, and he's an inch taller. Like, Kendall Brown is literally the exact same player as Jeremy, but he is a just much better athlete. And Kendall Brown is not going to be a great offensive player, especially not year one. He has like Herb Jones-like potential. Like, he is going to be a great defender, and he's debatably one of the best, if not the second best defender in this entire class. He's a freak athlete who can do anything you want on the court, and he does have a lot of offensive upside, as he showed potential in Baylor to be able to shoot the three, that he does have a foundation on his shot that he can build on, and I think in a few years could be an extremely solid player. But as of starting, Kendall Brown is going to be probably mainly only a very good lockdown defender off of their bench, or maybe even a starting power forward for them as just an elite defender, which would be very solid, and he would be a lob threat, and with Josh Giddey, that would actually be fairly dangerous. But in my opinion, Kendall Brown is better than Jeremy Sochan and has a higher ceiling. I can't see it. I could be wrong. I might just not be seeing something. But in my opinion, Oklahoma City Thunder would be selecting Kendall Brown if I was their GM and not Jeremy Sochan with this pick. And then just coincidentally, with the 13th overall pick, I have the Charlotte Hornets selecting Jeremy Sochan. Now, Jeremy Sochan, I still think is going to be a very solid player. I think he's going to be very good, and he's once again a great defender. He has good athleticism. Now, not as good as Kendall Brown, but he does have solid athleticism, which could be very dangerous with LaMelo Ball in pick and roll situations. And with how good his defense is, that could help Charlotte a lot, because Charlotte did struggle on defense a little bit this season. So his defense could immediately bring that up a little bit, and maybe he would fit very well with LaMelo as well, because I don't think they really need another beast scorer on their roster as much as they need a lockdown defender. That's exactly what Jeremy Sochan could bring to the table, and I have them selecting him with the 13th overall pick. And now for the 14th and final pick in this draft lottery, I have the Cleveland Cavaliers selecting Dyson Daniels. Now, Dyson Daniels, at this point, whoever you pick is going to have a little bit of work to be done. And Daniels, in my opinion, does have a lot of work to be done until he's a good starting level small forward. But the good thing about the Cavs, they don't need a starter right away. With how they play, they have Evan Mobley, Lauri Markkanen, and Jarrett Allen all as their starting big men at one time. So he does have more than enough time to develop off their bench, or even as a starting role over someone like Isaac Okoro. Now, the reason I have them selecting Dyson Daniels here is because at small forward, that is by far their weakest position in their starting lineup. And Isaac Okoro, although a great defender, very athletic, solid role player, is never going to be a great offensive player, and is never going to be in my opinion, good enough to start on a championship level team. Now, he has a very good chance to be a great role player on a championship level team, but never to the point to where he should be starting on one of those teams. And the reason I say that is because his offense is probably never going to get to that point to where he is solid enough to be on the floor in extended minutes on a championship level roster. Now, Dyson Daniels, on the other hand, is kind of the opposite, as in he has more offensive upside by far than Isaac Okoro, but he's never going to be the level of defender that Isaac Okoro is, because he just lacks the athleticism that Okoro does possess, and that is something you just can't coach. But Daniels does have good length, and his scoring potential is way higher, and he has very solid defensive potential as well, and he has some playmaking potential, which could be great along some big men like Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley. So I do think for sure Dyson Daniels would fit this team better in the long run, and I think in the future going forward, he could be a starting level small forward if he develops and hits the ceiling enough on a championship level roster, which someone like Cleveland would like to have going into the future, and they need to start developing him now, so in a few years when Evan Mobley is hitting his prime, Jarrett Allen is hitting his prime, and then you have Dyson Daniels getting better and better, Colin Sexton hit his prime, Darius Garland hit his prime, and then they can kind of all build together and get better together until that team is a championship level roster, hopefully, if you're the Cleveland Cavaliers. And now, unfortunately, that's going to be it for this video. So comment below, do you agree with me with all the picks? Do you think someone else should have been in the lottery? Do you think I missed someone? Do you think I bashed on someone? Do you think I slept on someone? I want your thoughts in the comment section below. Who do you want your favorite team to pick? I really want to hear our thoughts in the comment section below. It'd be very, very interesting to hear. But like I said, that's been it for this video. So I hope you have a blessed day. Have a blessed day. So you have a blessed day. All glory to God. See you in the next video. Goodbye. Boo.